Thanks, Sam. What is the Bill O'Reilly and the Kelly File segment tonight? Two very controversial stories, beginning with Heisman Trophy winner Jameis Winston, quarterback for Florida State University. 2013, a Florida State student told police she was raped by Winston, but no charges were brought. Yesterday, New York Times investigation indicated local authorities in Tallahassee botched the case, perhaps because Mr. Winston brings money and prestige to the state of Florida. Now, the federal government is opening an investigation. Here to explain why, the anchor of the Kelly File, seen immediately after the fact, Miss Megan. I understand that this is the education part of the Justice Department. And if any school gets federal funding, it therefore comes under law enforcement from the federal level if there is a violation. This woman says she was raped.
Right.
All right, by another Florida State student.
Right.
So therefore, the feds can come in. Is that about it?
That's right. That's correct. The Department of Education can stick its nose into this case and say, you did not adequately investigate this, Florida State, which is exactly what it's doing. It's trying to find out whether the investigation was sufficient. And if it determines that FSU did not adequately do its job here, as it's required under federal law to do, the school has an independent obligation, separate and apart from prosecutors, to look into a rape allegation on its
because
campus.
it accepts federal money. If it were a private college and didn't get federal funds, they couldn't come in.
That's right. It's subject to Title IX, which prohibits gender discrimination, and this would fall under that. If they determine that it's done that it failed in its investigation, then they have the option of revoking the $160 million of federal funding the school gets.
$160 million. Can you believe that for Florida State
Having
University?
said that, it's never happened. The feds have never done that ever to any university.
But here, I think this Winston may be in trouble. Because, look.
Winston's not going to be in trouble. He is not in trouble. No, FSU is the only one who may be in trouble
Here's where you're wrong. Winston is in trouble in the court of public opinion.
Well, that could be true.
So his whole career is based, he's going to play for Florida State again.
Right.
All right? And then he's going to come out and try to go to the NFL.
Right.
All right? If he has a beef at that level, so if the feds come in and
Didn't hurt him last year when he won the Heisman Trophy and they were already investigating him for rape.
He was exonerated last year by the authorities.
He wasn't exonerated. No, the authorities came out and said, we cannot prove this case.
That's right.
But we can't say he's exactly innocent either.
But what did his attorney do as soon as they said that?
Well, of course, his attorney complained.
But that's the public perception. The public perception is if the state doesn't bring it, then you shouldn't.
Then the state's not going to bring it.
Then you can't hold it against him.
The state made a determination early on in this case that there was no rape that they could prove in court. And they claim they made that for a number of reasons, including the victim's recall wasn't that good, and they didn't know whether they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. However, what the New York Times investigation shows, and they interview the prosecutor in the case, it was the detectives who looked into it who are being criticized. The prosecutor has come out and said, I'm flabbergasted at the investigatory mistakes that they made. Yeah. The lead investigator is a big Florida State booster.
And they didn't do
the
their
football
job.
Team. They didn't go get the videotapes in the bar with the two men on the night in question.
Right.
They didn't bother to contact the defendant, Jameis Winston, and interview him in person. They called him by phone 2 weeks after they knew it was he was the one being accused.
It's bad.
He said, I'll call you back. Instead, he got his lawyer involved and clammed up. I mean, there were a number of mistakes they made, and the question is, did the investigators and did Florida State University ignore this or cover it up because he was a big
Last
star?
question. I need a quick answer, so I want to get into Holder here. Could the feds charge Winston with rape?
No. No.
Okay, so it's just a beef against the school.
Beef. Yeah, and it's not going to happen.
Okay.
They don't think they can make the case. And I will say in the prosecutor's defense, you cannot bring the case for rape if you don't think you can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Even if you think he did it, if you don't think you can prove it, you have an obligation not to bring it.
All right.